Welcome to the last section of our HTML5 web visualization course. In this section, we're going to be talking about JavaScript and jQuery. Our main topics are going to be how to use jQuery and JavaScript to create a more visually engaging site, really focusing more on animations. We're going to talk about starting with dynamic visualizations, how to make our designs update and reflect what the users want using JavaScript. Our example is going to be using a daytime site versus a nighttime site. We'll learn more about that in this lecture. In the next lecture, we're going to talk about creating a typewriter effect. And this effect will be really cool and with it show you the steps involved with creating basic animations. After that, once we have that typewriter in place, we're going to want to create a generic typewriter effect mechanism. To do that, we're going to need to create a queuing order so we could send in animations. In 2 lectures, we're going to go through the process of creating a queue and also getting feedback from our animation when it completes so we could activate the next item in the queue. Last but not least, we're going to go back into talking about animation libraries. With it, we'll take a look at how could you animate using jQuery and hint over other libraries and possibilities when it comes to animation. So let's jump right into it. In this lecture, we're going to start off with dynamic visualization. What that means is we're going to go ahead and first of all, we're going to load in our jQuery. After we load in the jQuery, we're going to load in CSS file, but instead of loading it no matter what, we're going to create a custom user experience that basically will only load the CSS given certain terms. In this case, we want it to load only when it's nighttime and have a nighttime version of our site. So let's jump right into it and let's see how do we create this really interesting version of our site for users that are at nighttime, for example. This section in general is really dedicated to JavaScript. We're going to be using third-party libraries to manipulate. Although you could do most of these stuff with pure JavaScript, it would take a lot more steps, and we're trying to create something that is light and quick so you can see the things that you could do with JavaScript. But that does not mean that you have to use a third-party tool. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and in your source files, in the latest chapter in section 5, you're going to find in your CSS a night CSS. The idea behind our night CSS is I really want to create a version of our site where if the user is coming to us during the night, they'll have a site that is more accommodating to users at night versus users at day. The idea behind it is very simple. During the day, vivid colors are great. We love them. During nighttime, most of the time when it's dark out, we prefer less vivid colors. It's easier to read also. That, by the way, on a mobile device, we'd probably use some sort of logic to be able to fetch and see what is the current level of light in front of us and then manipulate the color to create a customization for the user. These small little tweaks and improvements are going to really make the performance of your site and the experience of users just better in general. So what I'm going to do next is let's go into our source code and I'm going to start off by adding in jQuery right below our script. Notice that right above our script actually. I want to make sure that jQuery is loaded before we even start approaching our script. The reason is because our script itself, once it starts running, it assumes that jQuery has been already loaded and the document has been loaded as well. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new script tag, but I'm going to put inside of it the jQuery script. Now, to find the jQuery script, I'm just going to go ahead and delete the current script that's there. I'm going to go into my browser and just go right into jQuery.com. And when you go into jQuery.com, just go ahead and search for your download jQuery. But instead of actually literally downloading it, I'm going to go ahead and select the production version, the compressed production version. Now, I know that we're looking here at version 1 dot something or 2 dot something. The ideas behind them very simplistically, the big difference between 1 dot something and 2 dot something, does it support really older versions of browsers such as IE 6, 7, and 8, while jQuery 2.0, 2. Whatever it will be, doesn't and won't, 1.0 does. So if it's important for you to support those browsers, such as it is for me, then we're going to go ahead and just use the 1.1 version as we work on it currently. And I'm going to go ahead and select the compressed production version, and it's going to open up right away. So I'm just going to copy that link because I really don't even need to download it, and I'm going to use their CDN. So I'm going to go ahead and in my source files, just update the script tag to have directly that jQuery version. And if you want to make sure that you have the latest, just make sure that you go on the site each time and fetch the latest version. So every time you're building a new production, you're going to work with the latest version. I'm going to go ahead and save this, and that's it. Now jQuery has been loaded up. Specifically also because the script itself is only going to trigger the init function once everything has loaded, once we got to the bottom of the page. So I know that everything is there and loaded, and I could start working and manipulating our content right away. What I want to do next is I want to basically decide when should I trigger version 1 versus version 2. The regular version, which is our current CSS, versus our nighttime version, which is basically going to be independent of it. This nighttime version, literally all it has is a few different changes to the colors, mainly the backgrounds, to make sure that the colors are not too vivid. Making sure that our background is a dark color versus a light color. Alright, so that said, let's go ahead and create here a new variable, which I'm going to call H for hour. And I'm just going to go ahead and create a new date, and right away, once I've created it, I'm going to ask to get the hours. Now, hours come back between 0 and 23 when 0 represents midnight, and 23 represents 11 p.m. What I want to do is I want to ask here a very simple question. Are we during hours that are expected to be nighttime hours? And for me, I'm going to assume, just for the sake of our presentation, that if it's before 6 a.m. or it's after 7 p.m., then it's probably nighttime. And I'm going to go ahead here, and in this case, and only this case, I'm going to go ahead and actually append in another style sheet. To do that, I'm going to first approach and create a new style. And to do that, just like when we created CSS, we added a new link. What I'm going to do is I could go ahead and just copy this whole link process. And if I go into my script, I could literally just go inside of here and create a new script by sending inside. And I'm just going to make sure that I'm going to wrap it in a single quote, that way I could use double quotes inside. So I'm literally just creating a new script, and I could also, if I want to, just go ahead directly and assign the values. Our next step for us is to obviously go ahead and change the style to be the style that we want it to be, which is the nighttime style. We're almost done, and I just want to walk through this. Literally, I just went ahead and sent in HTML that was already pre-configured, and it's going to render it and turn it into a DOM element behind the scenes. Now, obviously, we could do it the long way, but we won't, because it would take a lot more steps. Now, before we were done, all that's left for us to do is actually append it into the document. And to do that, we're actually going to take this jQuery object that is going to be returned, add a dot after it, and call the append_to method. Now, the append_to method expects to ask to what is it going to append. You could put inside a jQuery object, you could put inside DOM object, or you could go ahead and just put here a string that would represent what you want. And in this case, I'm going to put here the head, which represents our head. Now, that's all we really had to do. And if we set this up and go back into our application and click on refresh, you should see that nothing is happening. Well, the reason is nothing is happening, although it is working. If you go into your inspector, well, it actually is not working. You won't be able to see it because it's working, but it's not going to append it yet because the time right now that I'm recording is 4 p.m. So let me go ahead there and just push down the time to be 15. So if it's 3 or up, then we'll be able to see it. And I'm going to go ahead and save this. Go back and click here on refresh, and we should see now that our whole application is going to be updated. Now, these type of really small, really big in this case, tweaks that you do to your site will add a lot to the user experience, especially if you have video on a page. If you have a video and users are watching it at night, the most annoying thing I could say as a user is a white background. It's just so frustrating, specifically YouTube and Google. Please update that. At night, I don't want to see a white background anywhere really because it's not that easy to consume. So in general, you could create really, really cool customizations using JavaScript that would tailor and target to your user. In this lecture, we learned how to create customizations using JavaScript, and obviously there's a big and endless amount of things that you could do with these customizations. If you feel like you need to learn more JavaScript, I urge you to check out my packed title, Mastering JavaScript, which you'll find a reference inside of the HTML file. Okay, in the next lecture, we're going to continue down this path as we create a typewriter effect.